the cuff is finished, and the next step is to start knitting the main pattern on the mitten and make increases for the thumb. So what I will do is that I will begin my row by knitting the side pattern, the pattern for the side band, and the side band on this mittens are 3 stitches here, and I will continue this part which goes here on the top, and on the first rows in my pattern these are only knitted in bottom color, so that means I have to attach my pattern color to avoid a huge yarn float on the wrong side here, and I will do it the same way that I demonstrated when I knitted the cuff. So I will just knit the stitch in a regular manner, only when I pick up the yarn I go behind the pattern collar to pick up my yarn. I make sure I twist it back the right way, and on the next stitch I go on the right side again, and now I have attached this yarn, and I keep going. When I'm done with one needle, I make sure I have the right tension on the yarn I am attaching on the wrong side, and just have to keep going a few more stitches. Do the same again to make sure it's not too tight or too loose. And let's see, here I am at the end of on this side of the mitten, and here is my next side band, so I knit that one and I knit one more stitch, and I add just some leftover yarn in a different color here, because this is where my thumb goes. These 5 stitches here, these are the beginning of my thumb. So I put this yarn here just to make sure that I always remember where my thumb is, and I don't have to think about it all the time and count stitches to remember. After a while it becomes obvious where the thumb is, but in the beginning this is an easy way of doing it. And then I will knit these stitches, and I will keep going with the pattern that goes inside my hand here, And when I get to this place, I am finished with the row. And I want to explain the reason why I knit one side before I place the thumb is because this will be the right mitten. That is because I will have the beginning and end of my row on this side of the mitten. This will almost always, when you wear the mitten, will be facing down, so that this piece where the row begins and ends, where it can become a bit uneven with the pattern, this won't show. So that is why I place the thumb on the opposite side. So I will continue to knit my pattern, and the next step will be to make increases for the thumb. I am now ready to begin my increases for the thumb. Here you can see my marker that shows where the thumb goes, and you can also see that here are the side bands for the thumb. So what I do is I knit the first side band, and then I make one by picking up the white yarn and I put it on the left needle, and I stick my right needle through and make them switch places and knit. I do it the exact same way as I did when I made my increases after knitting the cuff. So for any further explanation, just go to that video to see. And then I knit my pattern. Here's my next side band, and I make one again the same way, and I knit the last side band for the thumb. And now I have done the first increase for my thumb. And on every increase I will make the increase right after the first side band and right before the last. And I will make as many increases as my pattern states. And when I have done so, I will be back with the next step, which is making the hole for the thumb. Now I have finished all my increases, and you can clearly see here the side bands and the shape of the beginning of the thumb. And the next step is to put all these stitches onto a safety pin, as I choose to use, or some leftover yarn or whatever you have that could do the job. And then you transfer all the stitches for the thumb and the thumb side bands onto the safety pin or whatever you choose to use, like this. And now I have to cast on the stitches that I have, the stitches I have transferred to my safety pin. I have to replace them, so I need to cast on, and I will cast on in the color I would use if I were to continue to knit the pattern on the inside of my hand. So I will use the same technique to cast on as I did in the beginning. have to pay attention to make sure I choose the right color yarn. Now that should be about right. Okay, so what I do next is that I just keep knitting my pattern. When I knit the first stitch here, I make sure I get it close to the last one I cast on, sorry. And then I just continue to make the pattern. And lucky me, it seems that I did it right when I cast on, because it fits what I did before. And here you can see the thumb hole. So now you just keep knitting around and around until you get to the point where you are ready to decrease for the tip of the mitten.